Therapy is not something that happens to you. It is a formula that requires all of your cooperation. If you are missing one of these three ingredients, you will stall out. So, I am Shara. I'm a mental health counselor. I've been seeing individuals for over 15 years, and I absolutely love it. And today is part 3 of a 6-part series of how to get the most out of therapy and how to know if you're doing it right. So, okay, let's talk about the 3 things that you've got to have for your therapy to go anywhere. You can waste hours driving back and forth and sitting on that couch talking to that therapist, and you can get absolutely nowhere, even if you're paying those co-pays like there's no tomorrow. So let's make sure that's not happening to you. The very first ingredient that you want to have in place with your therapist is a good relationship. That's right. If you do not like them, if you do not trust them, or if you feel like they don't like you, or that they don't really trust in some ways you, that is going to really disrupt things. You want to feel seen and heard by your therapist. You want to feel like they get you. Now, that doesn't mean that they worship the ground you walk on and never challenge you. That would be a red flag. The therapist should be able to challenge you and say, hey, have you thought about it this way? Or, I don't know, why don't we try this instead? So of course they need to have a spine, but you do need to feel the connection. I would say a vibe. You need to feel like you vibe with the therapist to some degree. If you feel like you're being judged, or if you feel like you're just so, I don't know, off kilter somehow, they don't get you, they don't see you, it just feels awkward, or you always feel kind of uptight or like you need to guard, that may not be the therapist for you. Now, it's not always so black and white like that. It's not always like, oh, I've just got to go shopping for a new therapist. It might be you. It might be that you are holding back. So that leads us to the next point, which is radical honesty. So now just to backtrack to that first point, really, you want a good vibe. You need it. But if the second point isn't happening, then you're still not going to get anywhere. And you're not going to be able to build that good relationship either. The radical honesty is that second key point. You need to be completely, just lay it out there. I've had clients that have had crazy things happen that I'll find out like 3 or 4 months later. And I'm like, if you would have told me, I could have helped you through that, or it would have made more sense about this other pattern. Now, of course, everyone has their reasons for saying or not saying what they don't say. And I respect that. I make it clear to my clients too that on the one hand, radical honesty, tell me everything. If there's something you're ashamed of, worried about, afraid of, keeps you up at night, makes you want to puke, something from your past that you're ashamed of, something from your future that you really, really want, it helps me to understand you so that I can help you. It helps me patch the pieces together. I'm not sitting here judging. I'm sitting here with a math equation on my hands where I'm plugging in pieces of what I understand about you. And so if you're leaving out key pieces of that equation, I don't understand. So I need all the information. But on the other hand, because nothing's black and white, I try to make clear to my clients that they can trust their gut. If they feel like something isn't relevant, they don't need to tell me everything. Say they had a fight with a friend that was a really big deal, but they solved it. And by the time they came and saw me, no biggie, right? I don't need to know about that particularly, but that they need to have that gut check of like, if they feel like it, maybe they're trying to hide it or they're ashamed, maybe it is something we should talk about. But if they genuinely feel like, yeah, it literally is not a big deal, then maybe it isn't a big deal. And there's always that little tiny percent of well, but if you say it's not a big deal, but you're, like, oh, I was ritually abused as a child, but I just don't want to talk about it because it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, maybe you're hiding the truth of what you need to talk about. So it's not one size fits all, black and white, just tell everything to the therapist. Like, you just need to be honest with what feels intuitively like it ought to be talked about. And I know that's easier said than done because back in my 20s, I had something really big that I really, really needed to talk to a therapist about. And it took me several attempts and 15 years before I ever got the bravery to bring it up in a session. And when I did, it was super helpful. But I was too scared when I was in my 20s. I just thought, oh, I don't dare. And so we danced around the issue and didn't really go anywhere. So you do want to be honest, even though it is scary. All right. The third thing that you want to bring into therapy to make sure that you're getting anywhere is work outside of session. That means you use your agency, your brains, your curiosity to try things. Maybe you read a self-help book. Maybe you talk to a friend about your problem or your worry. Maybe you read some things online and look at some things that people post in this topic and you go, I'm going to try that, and you try it. Then you come back and tell the therapist, hey, I learned this thing and I tried it and it helped me. Or I learned this thing and I tried it and I hated it. That is extra data. That's like a whole 2 or 3 therapy sessions in that week that were free. You went and found some ideas and tried them and learned. That is so helpful. I cannot tell you how helpful that is when clients do that. It's funny because a lot of my clients apologize when they're on TikTok and they watch mental health influencers and then they come in and say, I learned this from this mental health influencer. But my answer is always, I'm thrilled. Don't be embarrassed that you're on TikTok. I'm so excited that you learned this little quote or this little skill or this little tip. And now look at you, you grew, you're more, right? It doesn't all have to come from a self-help book or talking to some wise gray bearded friend. It can come from TikTok if that's where you need it to come from. But the whole point is do some work outside of session. Be curious about your issues, about what you're dealing with. Maybe talk or listen or write or ponder. And then share with your therapist what creative insights you've had and how that's affected you, because that gives the therapist more data. When I have a client come in and say, this really affected me, I'm like, oh, now I know more of how this person learns. They learn more visually, or they learn by talking it out, or they learn by trying this behavior, or this kind of influencer really spoke their language. And I note that, I log that. And it's helpful because I can't be everything someone needs, but I can be a piece of that puzzle. And when I see other pieces that fit, it helps me to navigate the piece that I've got more to their advantage. So just to review, the 3 things to make therapy successful is to have a good relationship and to be totally honest with your therapist and to do your work outside of session, and then be sure to let them know what's working. Now, if you want to catch all the other episodes on what is going to help you be successful in therapy, then check the download or check the link in my description, and I will also have a free download of tips for getting the most out of therapy. So check those both out in the description, and I'll see you in the next episode.